Okay, let's talk about Ghana's concrete jungle. We're going to dive into the story of its urban boom and the rapid, often hidden costs that come with it. This is a story about progress, sure, but it's also about what we lose when all that concrete and steel starts to replace trees and shade.
And to really get this story, we've got to start with the people who are actually living through it. This quote, it's from Mavis Owusu, who lives in East Legon, Accra. Her words just perfectly capture this feeling of loss, right? A memory of a past that was greener, way more comfortable, and is now just disappearing. So let's really take a look at what this transformation actually feels like on the ground for Mavis and for so many others just like her. And wow, the change is just stark. 15 years ago, Mavis's neighborhood was lush. Her home was shaded by trees. You could feel a cooling breeze. Fast forward to today, and it's a completely different world. Just buildings and this unrelenting heat that radiates off the concrete. Her kids, they even have these persistent coughs now. It's a direct trade-off, isn't it? Development, but at the cost of well-being.
And Mavis isn't alone in this. Take Daniel Menza. He's a lawyer who moved into a gated community that promised this whole eco-friendly lifestyle. But the reality? Unbearable heat and pretty much no trees. He and his family actually had to leave. His story points to something really crucial here: broken promises. And that right there brings us to the core deception. Let's pull back the curtain on this massive gap between what's being marketed to homebuyers and what's actually being built.
So, there's a name for this. It's called greenwashing. Basically, it's when a company spends way more time and money talking about being eco-friendly than it does on actually being eco-friendly. And in Ghana's real estate world, it's pretty much become the name of the game.
I bet you've seen phrases like these before. Eco-friendly living, sustainable, verdant lawns. They paint this beautiful picture, right? A perfect mix of modern luxury and serene nature. Developers use these buzzwords to pull in buyers who care about the environment. But what's really behind it all?
Well, a resident in Kumasi just lays it out bare. The marketing promises all this lush greenery, but what you often get are these tiny, token patches of grass. Yeah, they might look okay in a brochure, but like the quote says, they don't do anything to cool the area or replace what the original trees did, not even close. So you have to ask yourself, how is this even allowed to happen? Well, the answer lies in how the very systems that are supposed to protect these green spaces are, well, failing. I mean, on paper, the rules are actually pretty clear. Ghana's land use and spatial planning regulations say that new developments have to have landscaping at least 2 meters wide along major roads, and it has to be planted with trees or shrubs. So yeah, the law exists.
Which, of course, leads to the big question. If the law is right there on the books, what is going so wrong in the real world? Why are we seeing the complete opposite of what's required?
The answer, it turns out, is this whole cocktail of systemic failures. The zoning laws can be kind of vague, political connections can let developers just sidestep the regulations, and the agencies in charge, they often just don't have the resources to enforce the rules. So at the end of the day, profit just wins out over sustainability time and time again. Dr. Kwame Nyame, who's an urban planning expert at the University of Ghana, he just hits the nail on the head. Without tough enforcement, the financial incentive to just build more and plant less is, well, it's just too powerful. The regulations end up being more like suggestions than actual requirements. And these failures, they have very real, very serious consequences. This isn't just about pretty scenery or some broken rules. A huge bill is coming due for both people and for the planet. Just look at this number. Over the last decade, green spaces in Ghana's 2 biggest cities, Accra and Kumasi, have shrunk by over 30%. Think about that. A third of the urban greenery, just gone, in only 10 years.
And that loss has a direct human cost. Back in 2015, Ghana's Environmental Protection Agency linked nearly 3,000 deaths in the Greater Accra area directly to air pollution. The connection is really simple. Fewer trees means dirtier air, and dirtier air is literally deadly. And what's really scary is that it's getting worse. The EPA projects that number could climb all the way to 4,600 deaths every single year by 2030 if things don't change. This is not some far-off problem. It's a public health crisis that's happening right now. And the thing is, all these issues are connected.
It's like a domino effect. The loss of green space creates these urban heat islands where all the concrete and asphalt just soaks up the sun's heat and makes cities way, way hotter. This makes the air quality worse, leading to sickness, and it increases flood risks because, hey, concrete can't absorb rainwater. It's a total cascade of crises. Now listen to this warning because it comes from a pretty surprising source. Samuel Emagaibor of the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, an industry insider. He's confirming that the heat and the lack of greenery, it's not just an inconvenience. It can literally make you sick. It affects your fundamental health.
But look, this isn't a foregone conclusion. This future isn't set in stone. We can build our cities differently. So let's explore what a better, greener path forward could actually look like. Examples from around the world show us it's totally possible. Just look at Curitiba in Brazil. It's known as a green capital. While Accra's green space is vanishing, Curitiba has actually woven parks right into its city plan. They even use greenery as a natural, really effective tool for flood control. It's proof that development and sustainability can absolutely go hand in hand. So how do we get there? Well, it's going to take a few things happening at once. First, governments have to get serious about enforcing the laws they already have. Second, we need to educate the public on the real benefits of green spaces, from better health to even higher property values. And third, the developers themselves need to be held accountable and actually lead the way. And we hear again from Samuel Emagaibor, who puts the responsibility right on his own industry's shoulders. He's arguing that the big development companies, even if they're only part of the market, they have a duty to set a higher standard that everyone else can follow. And that leaves us with one final, really crucial question. If the real estate industry and the government authorities fail to lead this change towards a greener, healthier future for Ghana's cities, then who will? It's a question for everyone, citizens, advocates, policymakers, to really think about before any more of that green is gone for good.